Good evening, guys. Welcome to day 14 of our 30 days of code challenge. It's 2 weeks already. Wow. So let's continue learning, let's continue growing, let's continue developing our skills. In today's session, we will be creating a carousel image, or let's say an image carousel. So this image carousel is what we'll be using to choose between images. So with this, we can choose to preview our to choose next on our image. We can go to the previous. So we can select from a wide range of images. We can navigate between our images using the image carousel. So to start with, um, I'll be creating a file. Okay, let me switch to my. Okay, today is day 14. Good. So under the day 14 folder, I'll be creating a new file which I will name index.html. Great. So index.html. Let me maximize that so you can see it properly. Good. So the title is going to be image carousel. Image carousel. Very good. So let me go live so we can see what we are doing on the screen. Nice. Okay. Image carousel. So we're going to have our style. Nice. And then let's so with this styling, with this way we write our CSS code. So our JavaScript code is going to be under the script. So this is where we're going to write our JavaScript code. But before we do that, let's create some structures for our image carousel. So the first structure I want to add is the heading. Let's make use of H2. So the heading should be image carousel. Image carousel. So since we will be using this, since we'll be using it to switch between images, so let's add our first image. So you might need to import some images into your folder to make it easy to access. So I already have some images in my folder here. So I'll be starting from the day 7 image. So that'll be day7.png. So how do I add this image to my web page? How do I integrate this image to my web page? I can do that by using the image element. So that will be img. So the img is the image element. So to add the image, all I have to do is src equals to, let me look at the name again. So the name of the image is day7.png. Okay, so let's do this. So that will be day, you can see it's even right there, day7.png. And you can see that almost immediately, let me maximize. Almost immediately, we have the image on our screen. But the image is looking so big, we have to reduce the size of this image. So to do that, let's add some ID to this image. So let's add an ID of carousel to this image. And apart from that, let's add some alternate text to it to make it more accessible. So that will be carousel image. So the ID is carousel. So with this ID, let us to minimize the size of our image. So all we have to do is just go to the style where you have our CSS, and then you have the hashtag because it is an ID. Then carousel. So we want the height to be 400 pixels, and then you want the width to be 500 pixels. So you can see that we have the image, the size of the image have now been reduced, but the image is looking a little bit stretched. So to prevent this, we add object fix, object fit, and object fit to be cover. Very good. So with this, you can see that our image is now well aligned into the little space that we gave to it. Very good. So let's leave that for now. So now we have the heading, image carousel. We have the image. We have our first image. Now, how do we navigate between images? How do we go to the next image? How do we go to the previous image? We can do that by adding two buttons to this web page. So the first button is going to be the previous button, while the next button is going to be next button. So under my so let's add some buttons to that. So we're going to have button. So the first one should be previous, while the next button should be next. Share the door, please. Oh, sorry. Share. Should be what? Next. And you can let me maximize this. You can see that my buttons are aligned beside my image. I don't want them to be beside the image. I want them to be under the image. So to change this, I'll just go back to the image. Then after the image, I'll add a break element to that. So that'll be BR. Very good. So with this BR, the buttons have been moved to the bottom of the what? To the bottom of the image. So another thing I have to note now is that everything is aligned to the top left of my screen, but I actually want everything to be at the middle. So to do that, I'll go back to my CSS file, then I'll select the body, and I'll say that I want everything to be at the middle. So that should be text align center. So everything should be at the what? Center. Let me maximize that. Let's see what that looks like. Very good. So this is nice. So another thing is it is too attached to the top. So let's create some margin. Let's create some margin at the top so that we can have some spaces between these parts of the top. So we are going to have margin top. Margin top. Let's make that 10 pixels. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. Okay. Let me make it 100 then. So margin top 100 pixels. Very good. So this is what it looks like. A little bit too much. Let me change that to 80. Good, good. This is nice. So with 80 pixels, we have this. Okay. So the next thing I want to add some styling to is the button. So that'll be button. So let's give the button some margins. Let's say margin of 1 rem. Good. Margin of 1 rem. Then let's give some paddings. So the padding, let's make it 0.5 rem and 1 rem. Very good. So with this, we have some paddings in the top and the bottom and the left and the right. So top and bottom should be 0.5 rem and left and right should be 1 rem. So now we have our heading. Let me add some paddings, some margins to the headings also. So let me make it padding. Okay, this is cool. So the font family, let's make it Arial, a vertical sans serif. This is cool. Okay, good. Mm. Okay, so let's leave the styling a little bit for now. Then let's move on to adding functionality to let's add some functionality to what we have. So I'll be zooming out so I can see my full screen properly. Very good. So to add functionality to this, that is, if I click on previous now or I click on next, it is not working because we have not added functionality to it yet. This is just like a static web page. So to make it dynamic, to make it responsive, we need to add some JavaScript functionalities to that. So to do that, I'll be going to my script. This is the script is where we write our JavaScript function. And the very first thing I want to do is that I want my web page to know that I have not just this one image, but I have some other images in stock that I want it to choose from. So me telling the web page that okay, we have this set of images, that will be const, and I want to declare the images. That will be const images. So const images should be, I want to create a list of images. So let me go back to the name of the images so we can see the names. So the very first image is going to be what? day8.jpg. So that will be day8.jpg. PNG, I mean. One thing we have to notice that you can use any images of your choice and you can name them anything that you want. So that I'm using this image as this is the image you must use. Feel free to use any images as long as you are typing in the name correctly, it's going to work just fine. So the first one, day 8, next one is going to be day 9. Day 9 dot png, comma, next is going to be day 10 dot png, comma, and the next is going to be day 11 dot png, comma. Last but not the least is going to be day 12 dot png. So notice that we've just added some strings to these images as a list. So these are the list of images that we can choose from while navigating. Okay, so after adding the images, the next thing I want to declare is the index. So I'll say let's index to be equal to 0. So index is equal to 0 from now. So with this, let's add our first function. That will be function update image. function update image. The function of this image is going to be document dot get elements by id, and the id of our image is what? If you go back to it, the id of our image is carousel. The id of the image is carousel. So this is what we will be using. Let me just copy that, paste. Another thing we want to note now is that after selecting this id, we want the web page to select the link of that image. So the link is the src, and we want the link to be equal to the link of these images depending on their index. So this is the reason why we have function update image is equals to document.getElement by id carousel dot src equals to images index. What this means is that anytime we are referring to any image, we want the web page to select the link of the image depending on the index. So if we select an index of 0, that should be the first link. An index of 1 should be the second link. Index of 2, the third link. Index of 4, that should be the fifth link. So since the counting starts from 0, so we've done well to add our function of update image. The next function we want to add is that of the previous image. So previously, so anytime the user clicks on this previous button, we want this to take effect. So what is going to happen whenever you click on the previous button? So that will be index should be equal to index minus 1 plus images dot length with a modulus of images dot length. So what this does is that this ensures that it is like a form of cycle. That is, the function can repeat again and again and again. So let's call the function image now. So we are going to call on that function. That will be update image, update image. So what this means is that after reducing 1 from the index, you will update the what? You will update the image. So let's go back to our previous button. So anytime the user clicks on this previous button, we want to call on this function. So that will be on click. Right? Anytime the user click on it, so call on the what? Previous function. Very good. So let's try that. Clicking on the previous function. Okay. We'll get back to that. So let's add the next one that we have after this. So that will be next function. So that will be function next. So that will be index equals to open bracket index plus 1 modulus of images length. Oh, sorry, the length. So after this, let's call on the function update image. Good. Great. So this looks nice, this looks well. So let's see if this actually works. So I'll be maximizing my screen now. So now, if we click on the next button, Oh, let's go back. Oh, the previous button is working just fine, but the next button is not working. The next button is not working because we have not informed the Java, we have not called on the function of the next button. Yes, we have the function here, but we have not called upon it. So how do we call upon the function? We have to go back to the next button. We have to go back to the next button and explicitly states that whenever the user click on this next button, the function of the next should be called upon. So calling upon the next function, that will be on click should be equal to next. So with this, whenever you click on the next button, it's going to call on the next function. So let's try that now. So clicking on next, we cannot change the image successfully. So let me maximize my screen now. Let me refresh my web page. So clicking on next, we have this. Clicking on previous, we have this. Clicking on next, we have this. Next again, next again, next again, and next again. Then previous, 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 previous. Then another next, 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 and previous, 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 next, next, next. So our next button and our previous button is now working just fine. This is great. This is great. This is nice. Good. So it is working just fine right about now. So the next thing I want to do now, I want to add some little bit of styling to this. Let's style it up a little bit so it looks more attractive. So the first thing I want to do, I want to add everything to a div. Ctrl X, div. Very good. Very good. So now I'm just going to change my background color a little bit. Background color. Let me change the background color to. Let me change to Bix. Good. So I've just changed my background color to Bix. Now I want to change my div color. Nice. Let me maximize that so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I just added some border radius to that. Okay. What if I make the background color just white? Oh, sorry. Let me show you this. Mhm. This looks nice. Mm, 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 mm. No. Mm, okay, great. So the only thing we need to change now is the color. So what is it? Just look nice. No, no, this won't work. No. No. Okay, I just change this to black and then this to white. And then color to white. Image carousel. Great. Okay, that looks better. So let's so the previous button is working fine. So now we can switch between our image carousel, and the next button is also working perfectly well. So that's all we'll be having today for our image carousel. So the key thing to notice is that just with the help of JavaScript, we are able to create two buttons, the previous button and the next button, that allows us to navigate between images. So using the next button, we can move on to the next button, and using the previous, we can go back to the previous button. So thank you so much for joining us on today's session. That will be all we'll be having. In our subsequent session, we'll be creating more sophisticated applications and web pages. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.